Okay, I'm excited to be with everyone today. We're back talking about creationships. You'll remember that we talked about the relationships don't just happen, that we create strong relationships. We identified principle number one, which is to invite light and truth into your life and get rid of the darkness. And principle number two is space and time. You have to make and create space and time for great relationships. So let's go on to principle number three. So I have a question for you, which may sound like a crazy question in relationship to relationships, but it's important when you talk about creating relationships to ask this question. And that particular question is this: what is your relationship planting and producing? Now, what do I mean by that? Um, the reality is, sometimes we get fixated on results. And when we have a particular result in our lives, particularly in relationships, we don't like the result. We get fixated on the result. We're upset about the result. The reality is, I just don't understand why people do this. Because, take for instance, a tree. Once the result or the fruit is born on the tree, if it's a banana tree, you can't change that result. It's a banana tree. If you want a different result when it comes to planting and producing fruit, you actually have to go back and plant a different seed. It is the same way with our relationships. If you want something different, quit worrying about the results in your life or complaining about the results and ask yourself, what do I need to plant in my life so that I can produce in my life the very fruit I want in my relationship? And so you have to back up. You have to back up and take time and space to plant into your life the very things that you want. If you want love, there are things to lead to love. There are things that lead to peace. There are things that lead to happiness. There are things that lead to trust, and you have to plant those things into your life. So if the result is not what you want, quit being so fixated on the result and get busy in focusing on what you need to plant and produce in your life. Okay, principle number four and our final principle, and I'm going to talk to you a little bit about this. When I was younger, I was really interested in astronomy. And when you look up into the sky, it's really interesting that you see all of these constellations. And these constellations can guide you in your life, much like the early mariners. They looked to the North Star to guide them as they went across the seas. So here's the question: who are you choosing in your life to guide you, to have good relationships? You have to choose people who've had good relationships, people who can teach you how to have great relationships. And those lights in your life that literally come into the time that you use in your life, meaning every single day you should invite into your life material, ideas, a mindset that would help you create in your life things that will guide you in making those decisions. Too often we get into situations where we run into something, we're in the middle of a relationship, something happens, and we just react. And we need to act according to correct principles at that particular time. I'll give you an example. So I was working at a facility with at-risk kids, particularly boys that were at risk in their lives for various different reasons. On my first day, basically my first week, there was about 7 kids out of the 80 that I was working with that literally hated my guts. I had done nothing to them. I'd just barely shown up at the facility, but the reality is what I represented to them was everything that they were fighting against, and they hated me. I remember coming home and talking to my wife and going, what am I going to do? These kids are not going to even let me help them. Now, I'm a religious sort of person, and so in the back of my mind came the words, pray for them, that despitefully use you. And I honestly had never even thought about that. I'd never even done that. And I thought to myself, okay, this is where I'm at. They won't let me help them. I don't know how to help them. And so the only action that I could take was to begin to pray for them. It was interesting. Over the next 3 to 4 months, really kind of crazy events happened that allowed me to put myself in a position where I was able to begin to help these kids. In fact, I'll tell you one situation. We were running around outside one day. We were doing some work, and all of a sudden some of the kids started to wrestle with one of the counselors. He called for my help, and one of these boys who really had it out for me thought, okay, this is my chance to get Livingston, and he jumped me from behind. It was really interesting because of my background and growing up. I did a little bit of wrestling and things like. Immediately in that moment, I reacted. Big kid, by the way, and I flipped him over and pinned him to the ground. Wow, crazy event. Next day, went to class, was in a teaching mode. He was there. He was ready. He had his books. He started asking questions. It was like a total night and day difference. We actually became really good friends. Now, this all happened because there was a individual, a guide in my life that gave me a correct principle that I could apply in that particular situation. And then over time, things began to change in our relationship, particularly with the example with this young man, and we became really good friends. And so here's my invitation with principle number 4. You have to find guides in your life that will teach you how to bring light and truth into your life by applying correct principles. You can create good relationships by allowing yourself to do the 4 things that we've talked about. Now, number 1, divide the light from the darkness. You got to invite light and truth into your life. Number 2, you need to make space and time for the relationships in your life. Number 3, what is your relationship planting and producing? And number 4, the light or guides in your life. Who are you choosing to be your mentors, your lights that will teach you and guide you in choosing what correct principles to bring into your life? Now, if you'll do those 4 things, you can begin to create, and I say begin because there's so much more to it, but these are good beginning principles in creating strong, healthy relationships in your life. Now, I always want to end with an invitation. You need to take some action. You need to spend some time and either writing down, looking for resources, whatever the case may be, so that you get really clear statements of truth that then you're going to ask yourself, what does that look? What am I going to do to put it into my life? How am I going to produce that? How am I going to plant that? Those things then will begin to help you create a stronger relationship. You may need to get with the person that you're trying to build a relationship with and ask them for honest feedback of what you can do. That becomes a very difficult moment, but can be a great moment if you can humble yourself and just listen, and they can give you some positive feedback in that direction. All right, creationships. You can create great relationships in your life. Now, if you're listening to this podcast and you like what you've been hearing, go ahead and subscribe to my channel. I will be producing probably 3 to 5 audio/videos every single week for you to be able to listen to, and hopefully it will improve your lifestyle, your income, and the freedom in your life. Also, coming up pretty soon will be my podcast, Slipstream, getting into the Slipstream. And when we get to that point, I'll talk to you a little bit about what it means to get into the Slipstream. But appreciate being with you today, and we'll talk to you again.